highlights coming up on the show. Special shoot. Fashion designer Karl Lagerfeld's photography is on view at Versailles. Special course. German violin star Julian Fischer teaches highly gifted students. Special store. Soulbox offers limited edition athletic footwear. Euromaxx highlights. And here's your host, Robin Merrill.
And a very warm welcome from here in Berlin. Fashion designer Karl Lagerfeld is one of the few people you can call a living legend. He's immediately recognizable too, with his white hair and a ponytail, dark glasses and high-collared white shirts. He's also an accomplished photographer and has just completed a project that is close to his heart, a photographic series of the Palace of Versailles outside Paris. We toured the resulting exhibition with the man himself.
The tourists at the Palace of Versailles can't quite believe their eyes when fashion impresario Karl Lagerfeld suddenly appears in the gardens. They're even more perplexed to see him taking photos of the sights like all other visitors.
You never know when you might come across an image you want to capture. Anything could happen, so I always have a small camera on me. But today, unfortunately, I forgot to bring it.
Karl Lagerfeld began taking pictures of Versailles by chance. One day during a fashion shoot on the grounds, he ran into the palace's general manager at the time, Jean-Jacques Ayagon. They soon bonded over a shared passion for the chateau.
Karl Lagerfeld loves Versailles. One day he asked me if he might be allowed to take pictures here outside the usual opening hours, when no one else is there and dusk has fallen. I gave my permission, and I was most impressed when I saw the work he had done. I said straight away that the pictures should be shown to the public here in the palace.
I was delighted when Jean-Jacques suggested exhibiting my pictures. I had sent him a picture as a Christmas card, and immediately he called me and said we must organize an exhibition. What I didn't know, and he didn't tell me, is that there had never been an exhibition of photographs in Versailles before. Never ever.
It was a new experience for Karl Lagerfeld, who has said he enjoys taking occasional pictures of buildings and not just beautiful women. He's been an icon of the fashion industry for over 20 years, masterminding advertising campaigns for luxury labels such as Dom Perignon and Chanel.
It was very different to taking fashion pictures. These days I always need 5 assistants because it's all technically so complicated. So I like to photograph architecture with a small camera, which I can operate all by myself. When you're surrounded by a lot of people, you can lose sight of your vision, and you have to stick to a plan. Doing this, I can be more spontaneous and leave things more to chance.
All 40 of Lagerfeld's pictures currently being exhibited are black and white and play with contrasts. The show's title is Versailles in the Shadows of the Sun.
The difference between an enchanted world and this world is that this world really exists. This is a reflection of that world, which actually survived, and which has become legendary, not least because of this palace, which has a certain mystique.
Karl Lagerfeld is a true Renaissance man. In the next few weeks, he'll be unveiling his latest haute couture collection for Chanel. How does he do it?
I'm very disciplined, very well organized. I have excellent people working for me. It's all a question of organization. I live healthy, and it all adds up.
In short, Karl has never been better. And it's amazing how many talents he has up his perfectly tailored sleeve.
Another German who's fast getting to the top of her trade, even though she's still very young, is the violinist Julian Fischer. Her calendar is full, but she always leaves time to pass on her expertise to the next generation. In fact, for the last 2 years, she's been a professor at the Frankfurt Academy of Music and Performing Arts, and recently there she gave a very special course on chamber music to some young, talented musicians.
The teacher and her students are playing Tchaikovsky together. It's hard to tell who's who. They're more or less the same age, but something sets Julia Fischer's playing apart. Now 25, the musician from Munich is one of the most successful violinists in Germany. She's also a professor. Together with her students, she's giving a concert of chamber music at the Frankfurt University of Music and Performing Arts. Before it begins, she reveals a secret.
I've realized that the best cure for stage fright is to concentrate. You get stage fright if you go on stage and are too aware of what everyone's thinking of you and start thinking who's out there. And I really have to play well because of this or this. But if you concentrate on the work and the fact that you're sharing the stage with other musicians, and the main thing is to give a good performance, then your stage fright will disappear as soon as you've played your first note.
Fischer teaches violin at the Frankfurt University of Music and Performing Arts. She took up the position in the autumn of 2006. Back then, at the age of 23, she was the youngest woman professor in Germany. Thanks to her youth, it's not hard for her to tune into the students' wavelength.
Recently I had a student, and whatever it was I said, it worked. Because from one second to the next, she transformed the way she was playing. It was so extraordinary that the others stopped playing and were staring at her open-mouthed, wondering what was going on.
This year she's giving an intensive course on chamber music. A rare opportunity for the students to play in the same ensemble as their famous teacher. They love every minute of it.
Was euch bei Karl vielleicht ein bisschen hilft, ist, versucht nicht verzweifelt im Tempo zu sein.
10 chamber music ensembles are practicing during the week-long course. All of them will be led by well-known soloists, such as the prize-winning cellist Michael Sanderling. The participants include promising students from Fischer's University and scholarship holders from the German foundation Musikleben, set up to promote musical excellence among the young. One of their former beneficiaries is Julia Fischer.
Brauche ich mehr Bass von mir.
What really appeals to me is that some of them actually arrive as students, but are musicians when they leave. That's really fascinating.
The week concludes with a concert performed by students and teachers. The unofficial high point, Julia Fischer and her student ensemble.
The British pop artist Julian Opie is perhaps best known for his stick-like figures, many of which move, as a lot of his art uses the latest computer technology. He rarely speaks to the press, but we got lucky when he was in Vienna the other day for an opening of an exhibition of his work.
These are the kinds of faces that have become his trademark. Mundane expressions with colorful backdrops. The style seems designed to compromise the individuality of each subject portrayed. But for Julian Opie, it's about reducing down to the essentials and thus revealing a person's characteristics more clearly. It's an approach that has universal meaning.
They all seem to be a kind of classic type, a student or a courier or a collector, and I like this idea that we can be a classic thing that you can look down the street and say, you know, that one, that one, that one. But at the same time, we're all, I mean, I assume that we are all, I am, you know, lost in space, individuals with your own story and your need to understand the world from inside.
He also takes inspiration from 17th and 18th century oil portraits. But in this case, he uses family, friends, and UK celebrities as his models. His new exhibition at Vienna's MAK Museum sees the premiere showing of these portraits. Just like his Baroque predecessors, Opie puts emphasis on clothing and jewelry. He takes the old masters into the 21st century by bringing his portraits to life. Whatever would move during a model sitting does so in his portrait as well.
I don't have a balloon floating past. That would be a decision. It might be cute, but it would be odd, and you'd start thinking, why a balloon? Is that symbolic? So none of these things are symbolic. They're all logical. If I'm looking at 18th century painting, then I looked at the kind of poses they took up. They often would have a cloth draped across their arms, which is kind of weird in a way, but I think it just feels normal.
Julian Opie is himself on the move. This week sees his exhibition opening in Vienna, and last week he was represented in the Art Basel show. There's no escaping his tireless walking figures, as also seen at the Frieze Art 2004 in London. The 49-year-old Englishman still lives in his native London, even if more out of apathy than actual love for the city. His life here is far more complicated than that of his simplified figures.
No, I'm quite indulgent, really. I'm not aesthetic at all. I smoke at the moment. I'm trying to give up again. I don't drink particularly, but I would. I'm not a vegetarian. I'm doing my best with the old carbon footprint, but I have 4 cars, I think. I don't drive them all at once.
Cars driving across a Japanese landscape. Opie's latest subject. But it's not exactly non-stop action here either.
It's boring, really. There's nothing happening. It's not even a famous view. Some of them are of Mount Fuji, but this one in the sky, and it's raining. Then you're looking at nothing except a motorway with some cars on it. But often that can be the moment that can mean the most to you on your holiday, the moment that you stop the car and wind down the window and look out. And it's that capturing that kind of moment where suddenly you become hyper-aware of yourself and the world in a connecting way. For me, that's the most exciting thing about looking at art, other people's art, and it's what I'm kind of constantly aiming at.
In Julian Opie's world, it seems, less is indeed more.
When I was a child, sports shoes were black or white and they were used for sport. But nowadays, sports shoes or trainers are complete misnomers, as most of the people who wear them are not doing so for sporting reasons, but for stylish ones. And there are even specialist shops like Soulbox here in Berlin that cater for the serious fans and indeed those who have to have that special limited edition.
Cool, flashy colors. Delicate filigree patterns. Or golden elegance. Athletic footwear has long since become more than sports items. The shoes have turned into cult objects, diverse and trendy. Hikmet Zugur is one of the most knowledgeable experts on sneakers. His shop, Soulbox, is a mecca for sports shoe fans. He bought his first pair when he was 14 and has never worn anything else since.
For me, it's a lifestyle. It expresses what life is today with the kind of speed and mobility that you need to have. In principle, tennis shoes are sports cars for your feet.
Whether they're made of the finest leather or with cork soles, Soulbox has them. Rare retro models or expensive custom cobbling. Limited editions for €500.
Some shoes are made in a maximum edition of 24 pairs. That's like the Blue Mauritius for stamp collectors. If you leave the store with these shoes, they've already leapt in value 5 to 10 times. But to keep the value, you can't wear them.
In the past, these flat shoes were only worn by athletes. They helped their wearers win gold medals. But no one would be caught dead in them on the street. But in the 1980s, the music scene took a fancy to them and made them a lifestyle product.
Now you see them at every level of society, from the doctor who comes to the operating room in his comfortable sneakers, to the industrialist who wears them in the boardroom. Everybody has them. You even see them at fashion shows. They're everywhere.
Soulbox customers range from students to Hollywood actors. Patrice is one of them. The MTV presenter, whose shoe size is 46, is a dedicated Soulbox fan and a shoe fanatic.
I love to surprise people by having shoes to match every t-shirt. It's the details I love. Like every good relationship, loving a tennis shoe begins superficially. First, it has to attract your eye.
And the correct shoelaces are crucial. They're how connoisseurs can give an individual touch to the shoe. The trend of the future is towards natural materials instead of synthetics.
You pay attention to where a product was made, what materials were used, preferably in classic color combinations that are timeless. By that I mean things in dark brown, beige tones, black and white, but also really high quality materials.
The sneaker, cult object, status symbol, and luxury product all in one. And perhaps far too good for just walking.
And those were our highlights of the week. I hope you enjoyed them and will join us again soon. Until then, auf Wiedersehen.